Hello everyone, how are you doing? I hope you're doing well. In this video, I'm going to give you a little health update. I'm really enjoying doing these and, I feel like the car environment is just really chill, so we're back. I am feeling a little anxious today. I'm not sure if I'm going to go into that in this video just because there's just been so much going on. I think it's going to be a pretty packed video, but I hope that that doesn't come across and like ruin the mood. Also, if you see me holding my little catermelon, it's just because I'm stressed and I keep this in my car because I get stressed when I drive sometimes and I just need something to hold that's really soft and squishy. So here I am. I actually was going to post a different video this week, but it's one that is really close to my heart and I really want to do an extra good job on it. So I need a little bit more time on it, and I figured this would be something easy and fun to film, something that I would film anyway. So here we are. Let's start with the skin stuff. So, first, my seborrheic dermatitis, which I get in the creases of my nose. I forget what the technical term of that is called, but anyway, it's like a scaly, dry, painful skin rash. And when I was at the dermatologist for my first appointment, my dermatologist prescribed this specific cream for me, which I did pick up at my pharmacy and I used it as prescribed. And what I was supposed to do was use it twice a day for 2 weeks and then stop. And then whenever I got a flare up, I could use that cream again. And I did that, but unfortunately, the seborrheic dermatitis came back after only 4 days. So when I went back for my follow up appointment with my dermatologist, she actually prescribed a higher concentration version of that same cream and gave me the same directions as before. And so this hopefully will make it so that I can go much longer in between uses of this cream and I won't have the flare ups as much. Unfortunately, she did say that this is a chronic condition. It doesn't necessarily go away. But I mean, that kind of reminds me of like getting a cold. Like you're not always sick, right? But you will get a cold at certain parts of your life and then you got to drink fluids and rest and blah blah blah. So, not really a huge deal, but I thought I would give that update. So I'm using that cream, the higher concentration cream now. I haven't used it for 2 weeks yet, so I can't really say if it is better than the other cream, but we will see. Second skin thing is my sun allergy. It's called PMLE or polymorphic light eruption if you haven't heard of it or seen my past videos. And basically, what happened was in my first appointment, I got my diagnosis and I was given a steroid injection in my arm. I don't know anything honestly more specific than that. They just told me it was a steroid injection. And apparently that for most people will get rid of the reaction and then they just have to get it every year before the warm season starts. So that's what I got and then unfortunately, I did notice that I was getting some reactions. It was much better, but I was still getting a little bit of a reaction, a little bit of red in certain places, and it was a little bit itchy. Like I said, not as bad as before. I mean, way, way better, but there was still a little bit of a reaction. So when I went back for my follow up appointment, the dermatologist actually prescribed some pills for me, and I did pick those up at the pharmacy, and I've been taking them daily. And she said that basically I would just take one, or if I felt like I needed two, then two every day for as many days basically as I wanted to. But she was recommending the warm season, when I'm wearing more like tank tops and showing more skin and things like that. Because when my skin is covered, then I don't get the reaction. So when it gets cold out, I'm not really going to need it. And what she explained to me is that because I got the shot after the warm season had started, that's probably why I got a sun reaction even after that. And so hopefully these pills will help me for this year, but then next year I'll get the shot earlier. I actually have an appointment scheduled for April, and then I won't need the pills next year and the shot will be good. It will do everything that I need it to do. Next, we have a new development, and this is something I don't think I've ever mentioned on this channel or maybe even online, but I did go and see an immunologist just last week. And the reason why I wanted to see an immunologist is because my dream, ever since I was a young girl, was to have a dog. I always wanted to rescue a dog, and I can't really say anything else. I mean, just everything that comes along with it, the love and all of the fun times and the memories and just being able to take care of something and sort of have a companion, like all of those things were just really intriguing to me. But unfortunately, my parents said no, no matter how much I begged, no matter how many good points I made, because I was actually a really responsible child. So I really would have taken care of my dog if my parents had let me get one, but they said no. And then at some point, I actually found out that I am allergic to both cats and dogs. And I still have always wanted a dog, and within the past few years, I've gotten, like, really obsessed with cats, and so I would like to own a dog and a cat at some point in my life. I wanna rescue, and I've always been interested in either adult pets or senior pets, so I would love to adopt that kind of, a pet from the shelter. I've never been interested in puppies or kittens for whatever reason. Like, I don't know. I've just never been interested in like getting like an infant dog or an infant cat. But anyway, I just really want a dog and a cat at some point in my life. I think I want to start with a cat, but I am allergic. Not like deathly allergic, but I do basically the best way I can describe it is if I'm in an enclosed space, like if I'm inside with a dog or a cat for an hour or longer, I end up basically feeling like I have a cold, plus my eyes are really watery and itchy. So it was just a really bad experience. It's not fun. And based on my research, you can get immunotherapy for this, and your symptoms will either completely go away or they will greatly decrease. And I can't see myself cleaning every single day, buying HEPA air filters and humidifiers and taking Claritin every day and all of this sorts of stuff so that I can have a pet. Like, it's just too much. It seems really expensive and like a lot of energy, which, as you know, if you watch any of my videos, I don't have. So this just seems like the best solution or the best route. In my first appointment with the immunologist, we just kind of went over what I'm looking for, my health history, background, things like that. And it was interesting because he was actually really interested in helping me with my environmental allergies as well, which I didn't really know that I had, but I do have a runny nose like almost all year. So I do take just like over the counter antihistamine pills for that. But yeah, he was really interested in helping me with that, and I sort of feel like, well, why not if we can do the stuff at the same time? Sounds good to me. So I want to say in like 2 weeks, I have a skin test scheduled, and I've never had a skin test before, but I guess this is how they test for these kinds of allergies. So that's what I'm going to be doing. I don't know details because I've never had a skin test, so I don't know what else to say about that, but that's what I'll be having. And that way they can test how severe my allergies are and then I guess come up with a plan. I don't know. I don't know a lot about that. So once the immunologist explains more to me, I'll definitely let y'all know. But that's all I know for now. And from what I know from like articles that I've read, it takes 3 to 5 years to complete immunotherapy. So I figure let's get started now, and that way I can get a cat faster. So that's something I'm really excited that I finally started because I wanted to start this in 2023, but I was just so depressed and fatigued that I could not get myself to like look up professionals and find somebody in network and make an appointment and then actually go. But this year, we're doing it. Next, let's talk about nutrition. So, if you remember, I am working with a team of health professionals, and they really take a holistic approach to help figure out if there is a cause for my chronic fatigue syndrome, which chronic fatigue syndrome doesn't have a cause, but maybe I was misdiagnosed. Maybe the fatigue is coming from somewhere else. So, we're kind of looking into that. And then also, I'm working with them to help me manage my symptoms. And so I finally got to meet with the nutritionist who is part of this company. I don't know, whatever you want to call it. And I say nutritionist because they call their dietitians nutritionists, which dietitians are nutritionists, but nutritionists are not dietitians. Anyway, this nutritionist is a registered dietitian, just FYI if you were wondering. I didn't have a great experience with this dietitian, unfortunately. She just came off as very cold towards me. Like, she didn't really want to help. And she really didn't come to our appointment prepared. So I just didn't get a good vibe. I felt very discouraged after the appointment. And I actually ended up at my health coach appointment after that, about a week after that. I asked for a different dietitian. I asked if I could switch. And I feel kind of bad about that. Like, I don't want to make anyone feel bad, and it makes me feel bad. It's a social anxiety disorder thing. But yeah, I feel like I deserve to have someone who comes to the appointment prepared and, has my food journal up and has reviewed it and kind of already knows what it's about and, doesn't need me to explain everything or just do everything that the dietitian should be doing because I am paying them. I don't want to have to calculate my own macros and stuff. I haven't actually gotten word back about that, but the health coach was very open and said she would ask her boss about that. And I do have a dietitian appointment scheduled for next week. But if my request is granted and I get a different dietitian, then that appointment will probably get moved further out. So we'll have to see. Anyway, the main thing the dietitian told me was that I wasn't getting enough protein. So that's like the main thing that I have been working on is figuring out how can I get more protein in my diet. The dietitian wants me to get a specific number of grams of protein at each meal, and I never really looked at the grams of protein and tried to calculate how much I was getting at each meal because you don't want to get like too hyper focused on stuff that doesn't really matter. So, like for me, I just kind of know as a dietitian myself what foods are high sources of protein, what foods are high sources of carbohydrates, which foods are high sources of fats, healthy fats, um, I'm not going to say unhealthy fats, but, things like that. And even, just thinking of it in terms of the food groups and how many food groups am I getting in this meal and, trying to hit all the bases as much as I possibly can to have a rounded out diet with a variety of nutrients coming in. But looking at these labels, I was actually shocked at how low the protein content of foods is. I mean, even a food that you would think would be super high in protein, which it is, it's a high source of protein, but something like meat, like beef or chicken, you eat one serving of these foods and it still is only giving me half of what my dietitian wants me to get. And I would tell you what the grams is. I just don't want anyone to like think that they should be eating how I'm eating. So that's why I'm trying to sort of be vague with it. But it it's crazy like how low protein is even in the high protein foods and how much of the food you have to eat to get the amount of protein that my dietitian wants me to get. So it's just been kind of a puzzle with trying to figure out how to do this. I've been reading lots of labels, I've been buying different products, and I'm trying to make small changes because I know as a dietitian that if you make huge changes, if you just stop stuff cold turkey, if you completely change your diet, it's not sustainable, it's not going to work. So you want to make small changes that are realistic for you that you can actually keep up with. So like for example, instead of buying whole grain pasta, and even instead of buying protein pasta, I'm buying chickpea and lentil pasta, which is a little bit higher in protein than the protein pasta, surprisingly. I actually love chickpea pasta, lentil pasta. I just wasn't buying it because I was focused on whole grains. And I actually often would buy garden pasta, like garden rotini. I'm thinking, oh, I love these vegetables. Not that it's like super high in vegetables, but I like to change it up. And then I figured the protein pasta was giving me some protein too. But, it was good to know that, by looking at the labels and working with my health coach as well, that actually the chickpea and the lentil pastas are higher in protein. So I made that swap, stuff like that. That's been a process. It was really stressing me out at first. And I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. And the things that the dietitian was recommending was just like really far out, like not stuff that I would normally eat, not stuff that I like. And yeah, so it took a while and I'm still figuring it out, but I think I'm getting better at eating more protein. And by the way, this is just an idea, a trial of sorts to see if this helps with my fatigue or not. So I want to be doing this for, I don't know, maybe a month or something and just see if my energy increases or not. So that's the purpose, and that's the big thing with the dietitian and my nutrition right now. Lastly, I want to talk about my mental health because that is just a huge part of my life. And of course, your physical health and your mental health are all connected. So who knows? A lot of my fatigue could come from my depression. My depression could come from my anxiety. It's hard to know. I seem to find a medication and a dosage of this medication that works for me for my depression specifically, but it does help a little bit with my social anxiety disorder as well. And I did this with my psychiatrist. We seem to find it. I was pretty steady mood wise, and literally, like in my last psychiatrist appointment, she's like, "You sound good. Let's schedule an appointment for 2 months out," which was kind of crazy because I pretty much had been meeting with her every like week, 2 weeks, month, but I'd never gone 2 months. Like, I was like, wow, that's far out. But I was actually doing pretty good. And then, even for a while after that, I was doing really well energy wise and I don't know, depression wise. Like, I didn't feel heavy. I didn't feel like I just wanted to sleep all day. And I was encountering less resistance with doing things, cleaning and getting things done. And then unfortunately, the past 2 weeks have been very difficult. I don't want to say I've gone back, but I've felt depressed again and very fatigued. I've been taking naps during the day. I've been struggling to exercise, and I always shower after I exercise, and if I don't exercise, then I find it really hard to get in the shower. So because if I work out, then I'm sweaty. So I'm like, okay, well obviously I need to get in the shower. But if I don't work out and I'm not sweaty, then I don't feel like I'm dirty, so it's hard to get myself in the shower. I was struggling to work out, and then I was struggling to shower. I was encountering a lot of resistance with getting myself to keep up with certain cleaning tasks in my apartment, and things would, get delayed, pushed off, or skipped for a week or two. And I don't like that. Like, internally, I'm not happy with that, but sometimes I just can't get myself to do it. So it's just not really been a great time the past 2 weeks. And, that's disappointing too, because I'm like, well, what's happening? Like, the medication just isn't working anymore. Like, do I need a higher dose? Do we need to start this process all over again with trying to find something else or adding something on? And I was talking to my psychiatrist this morning actually, because that was my appointment. It's been 2 months, and she actually thinks it was interesting. Like, I didn't even think of this, but she was asking me about my anxiety, and it came up that, I always feel a little overwhelmed and stressed with the amount of stuff that I need to get done slash want to get done. And, if I don't get everything done on my list for the day, then it gets pushed off, right? But then it's like more stuff for me to do. And then if I miss anything on another day, more stuff gets pushed off. So it kind of builds up. But it's like I need a schedule for the day because if I don't, then I'll just sit around and do nothing. And that also kind of stresses me out because I always have a mental to do list. Like, I don't just, like, it's not like nothing's going on up here. Like, lots of stuff's going on up here. And, at least if I write it down, it's better for my mind because it's on paper and I know that it's going to get done. But then when it doesn't get done and it just keeps getting pushed, it's like it will pop up in my head. So I just never feel like I can really get everything done. There's just always more to do and it stresses me out. My psychiatrist, well, for one thing, she recommended that I see a therapist, which she's been recommending that since I started with her. But I never really wanted to because I've done therapy many times before for years, different types of therapy with multiple different therapists, and it's just never really helped me. So I'm like, why am I going to spend all this money and time when nothing, like, I'm not going to benefit from it. But this time, her suggestion was interesting to me. Like, I kind of want to take it because she was suggesting that I see a therapist for a specific reason and it wouldn't necessarily be like an every week kind of thing, maybe a once a month kind of thing or even just a one-time thing. And then, you know, use what the therapist teaches me in my daily life. But basically, she was recommending that I see a therapist and have the therapist help me with scheduling and like how do I prioritize things or like what to get done. Because even she was saying, like, oh, you could try that yourself. Like, okay, we have 10 tasks, and what are like the top two that are the most important that we need to get done. And in my head, I'm like, oh, I've got like a list of 100 tasks in my head, like at all times. And I'm literally going to have to like organize them by category and then prioritize them and then figure out how do I mesh this together. So I think there's just a lot happening up here, and I think I might need somebody to help me with that. So we'll see how that goes because obviously I'm going to have to look up somebody that is in network that I can see. But she recommended that, and then she actually was asking me if I think that I have ADHD. I was actually evaluated for ADHD in my 2019 psych evaluation, and I was found to not have it. And actually, part of that evaluation was that they called my mom and asked her a bunch of questions about me, from when I was a child. And I was not there for that conversation. Even in the report I got, they didn't give me the questions. My mom hasn't told me about it. I haven't asked her about it. So I have no idea what they even asked her. I'm not like super knowledgeable about ADHD, but all I know is I was not diagnosed with it at 19. That doesn't necessarily mean that I don't have it. It could have been missed in that evaluation, or maybe I didn't have it, but now I do. I don't know. I've never thought that I had ADHD, so I'm kind of leaning towards no, but I just thought it was interesting that she was bringing that up and she was seeing a lot of ADHD symptoms, especially because, like, when I think of ADHD, I think of not being able to focus and not being able to finish tasks and being disorganized. And I'm not like that at all. So I've just never really seen myself in other people who have ADHD, so I've never thought that that was something that I had. But my psychiatrist was also saying you might not have it. It could be that your anxiety is manifesting in some ADHD like symptoms. She was even saying that me feeling so fatigued and depressed could be coming from the anxiety because I have been feeling stressed lately about my schedule. And so maybe that's why the past 2 weeks have been so difficult. So basically, my whole appointment with my psychiatrist was actually really eye opening because I realized that maybe my main problem, I mean, my main problem has always been anxiety, but maybe even now, because I've been feeling like, okay, my main problem now is like depression and fatigue, maybe it's actually still my anxiety. Maybe that's still the main problem. But it's also interesting because the scheduling thing is not social anxiety, right? Like, it doesn't have anything to do with people. So it could be some kind of generalized anxiety. I remember my college therapist thought that I might have some generalized anxiety because I would feel anxious literally every second of the day that I was awake, including when I was alone. But I was never diagnosed with that. So maybe there's some of that going on. Even at 24, with all of these diagnoses, there's still so much to explore. And next week, or actually, excuse me, tomorrow, I'm actually going to see a rheumatologist for the first time, which is another type of allergy doctor, but this doctor is specifically for autoimmune diseases. And I don't know if I have anything. We're going to see. Yeah. My dietitian actually was thinking maybe I have POTS because of some of my symptoms of my hypotension. So I don't know. I don't know about that. I'm not saying I have anything. I'm going to talk to the rheumatologist about it, but we'll definitely have some more things to talk about in the next health update. I hope that you found this interesting, educational. Please let me know, by the way, if you are a regular viewer, 20 of you. I know you're out there. Let me know if there's any specific day of the week or time of day that you would prefer if I post, because I've been doing Mondays at about noon. But if you have any other preference, let me know. With all of that said, I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I hope to see you in the next one.